Welcome to the Transform Tales podcast, everyone. I'm your host, Brooke Addis, and on each episode, we'll explore the power of change in our lives and communities. Today, we'll be talking with Dina Baker, who came in so kindly from Boston. Thank you for making the trip.
My pleasure.
And she has a great story to tell. I'm so excited to have her here. Please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, what I do day to day is I help companies really shift into high gear by providing a full revenue suite on demand. And what that means is that as part of Chief Outsiders, as an area managing partner there, I have 120 plus colleagues who are experienced executives in chief sales, chief marketing, chief revenue, chief growth officer roles. I also have a full set of extraordinary executors in those revenue positions, and I can bring that to mid-market companies and to nonprofits on demand, how they need it, when they need it, where they need it. And we're also powered by AI that leverages the experience of 16 years and over 5,000 successful engagements. So it's just really exciting to be able to help companies grow.
I love that. And it was a great, the excitement in your voice when you talked about where you are and what you're doing. Let's think back, maybe when you were a child. Did you think one day I'm going to wake up and be a managing partner?
I certainly did not. I am pretty sure I had never heard of the idea of an on-demand or fractional chief marketing officer, which is the role I serve my clients in addition to matching other companies to my colleagues. I would say what I always knew is that I loved to read and write. And that's where it started. In fact, I remember being in the library with my mother. I must have been around 4, and I wanted to check out the library book under my own name. I wanted my own library card. And we weren't permitted to check out a book if we couldn't sign our name.
Oh.
So I wouldn't leave the library until my mother taught me how to do that. So being able to read and being able to write, at least at that moment in order to read, have always been important. And at one point, I thought I was going to be a journalist.
Okay.
But in the end, I went into writing. I started in expository writing, marketing writing, and scientific writing, technical writing. And that, in time, became marketing strategy and marketing leadership, and grew to me to where I am today. So there's a thread.
I like that. Like the theory, that string theory, it was always there.
Yeah.
You were going to get there.
That's right.
I think it's really interesting too how you did know what you wanted to do from a very young age. I don't think at 4 I could say that I had any idea of even an inkling of what I was interested in, probably like a soccer player or something. But as you developed more skills and had more experience, you just added on to the thing that you enjoyed, which I think makes you probably even more valuable from when you started out till now. And it probably adds to the excitement that you, like when you talked about what you're doing and where you're at, when you're with a client and you're able to show them, I have all these years of experience in this extraordinary team that I can reach out to if I'm not the perfect match for exactly what you're asking me, and support you. I think that's incredible.
That's exactly right. Yeah. If I were entirely on my own, there's so much less I could do. I love being part of a team that brings so many different facets to the table, not only for the clients that I'm not going to be that chief marketing officer for, but even my clients where I am serving in that role. I have questions and I have all of these colleagues to ask. We run peer reviews on our work. We bring in each other's voice quite intentionally and quite transparently with our clients. And there's nothing like having, first of all, a wonderful colleague base, but second of all, having so much to bring to the table.
That's incredible. How did you find Chief Outsiders? Or did it find you?
I found Chief Outsiders because somebody I had worked with years before found Chief Outsiders. And I don't know how she did,
Okay.
to be quite honest, but I knew she was there and loving it. And when I was ready for something different, I reached out to her and said, I'd like to talk. I'd like to learn more. And then I said no.
Oh.
And 3 years later, I went back and realized this is really the time I'm ready to take that leap.
Was there something specific, like what you were doing before Chief Outsiders? Was it just not time to let that go and move on?
I think it had more to do with whether I was ready to let go of the feeling of security of being that person full-time inside. It's not for everyone, and it's not for every moment in your life or in your career. And I just needed to gauge when that time would be right. I knew when I had that conversation with her that this was a place I wanted to be and this was a direction I wanted to go. And I was able to figure out that for a variety of reasons, it wasn't quite that time yet.
I love the self-awareness. Sometimes people jump too soon, but you knew, and I love that. How long have you been with Chief Outsiders now?
Just over 3 years.
Congratulations, a milestone.
Thank you.
Another year under your belt. I know the company has changed and evolved a lot, even in your time. What do you think the biggest change that benefits the client is that you guys are working on right now?
Well, I will say that one of the many things I love about Chief Outsiders is we listen to the market.
Okay.
And that means we always have to change.
Evolution.
Because the market is changing. And that's been very rapid in recent years. We are very responsive to, right now, the uncertainty that's in the market, for example. I've had the opportunity to put together a set of what I call tools in a toolbox for companies facing uncertainty, particularly companies in that social impact area, because they have the double whammy of both economic uncertainty and public policy shifts that impact how their social impact message is going to be received from a funding perspective. So we're really able to react. Some of the more broad-based changes are, as I said, we're really serving that full revenue suite. So we used to be fractional chief officers, chief marketing, chief sales officer, chief growth revenue officer. Now we have what we call team outsiders in addition to chief outsiders. These are fully vetted, remarkably experienced executors who we can bring to the table. Just as we come in as executives on demand as you need us, ratchet us up or down as you need us. It's the same with the teams we bring in. As much of them or as little of them as needed, based on what's best for the client. Sometimes what's best for the client is that I help them choose an agency, not an individual executor. Sometimes it's a combination of the two. While we're waiting for the process of an RFP for an agency, let's get to market and bring in someone who can get us there right now. So it's that flexibility to really move with the speed our clients need that's differentiating us in a new way right now.
I love that. And I know you and I had talked about this previously, but another large differentiator is your requirements to be in your group.
Oh, yes.
Which I think, if you wouldn't mind sharing, I think is exceptional for how much experience you have to even be able to offer to be considered.
Yes. Well, first of all, only about at any given time 1% to 3% of people who apply to be at Chief Outsiders get that opportunity. So it is truly an elite group. And we have to have had that big head of marketing, head of sales, head of revenue role at big companies at least twice in our careers. We have decades of experience when we come in. So that's the starting point. And that means that mid-market companies who really need to have that shift in their growth trajectory can get the kind of expertise they usually cannot access. And that's what's so important about it. It's no different with the team outsiders. These are really the elite in what they do. You can't just say, hey, I want to, be on your team. We have to have worked with you. We have to have felt that you'd give 5-star capabilities. We have to really know what you bring to be one of the executors on our team.
I think that's incredible. And that sort of attention to detail with who you're working with probably does give you the 5-star reviews you're looking for from the customers you work with.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
That's great. How do you feel about the word fractional? I feel like we're still in that time where it's kind of a hot topic, or sometimes it's used incorrectly.
Well, it's funny because over 16 years ago, when Chief Outsiders was founded, no one had heard of that term. And really, we pioneered the concept of that time just the fractional chief marketing officer. And now it's used by many, sometimes in the true meaning of we come in as a member of your executive team. We're there representing, in my case, marketing or sales, the revenue function, and the executive team. We're at all those executive meetings. We're sitting side by side with the CEO. We're leading the marketing team. We're making operating decisions. We are operational leaders. That's what it means to me. Sometimes it is someone who is handing off a marketing strategy and walking away. And I call that a strategy consultant. So I think it's used in many different ways. And it's just wise for people to ask the right questions to understand exactly what they're getting. It's not that unusual that I'm contacted by someone who says, I need your help, and I'm a little reticent because I've been burned thinking I was getting a fractional executive, and I got a piece of paper telling me what to do from someone who then walked away.
That's so interesting. I just feel like right now fractional kind of is the way I would say the word consultant was about probably mostly during COVID, 2020, 2021. But you do have to be safe, and you do have to ask the right questions, or you might end up with someone who can write a very good resume and not execute. So really interesting to hear you say about the handing off of the paper, because I just couldn't imagine the reaction someone would have if you came in with what you said you were going to offer them and go, here's your guidelines, best of luck.
Exactly.
I mean, I might have to laugh. Wow. In your day-to-day, in your job, and with the clients you work with, do you still get to focus a lot on writing the way, that you have a love for it?
I don't write as much as I used to, clearly. I do get to write, though. And I like writing anything. So I'm happy writing a proposal.
Okay.
I'm happy writing a strategy document. I love editing other people's work. One of the things I truly love is having the opportunity to review the work of sort of a rising star and use that review process as an iterative way to develop them.
Oh.
And to me, reviewing and editing is an opportunity to explain why you're making the choices you're making and how somebody can adapt their voice to audience, to purpose, and so forth. So it's evolved to me to be a development tool, which makes a lot of sense for where I am in my stage of life and career.
That's so interesting. It also seems like a very solid method if you are not even have to be mentoring someone, but if someone comes to you because you have such great experience and just want some honest feedback and some like development help. I really like that. I did not know that about you, so thank you for sharing that. I know this, but we're going to have to tell everyone here. I know that you also like writing some other things.
I do.
Would you mind telling us about them?
Sure. So I think that a lot of what I write is about, in some ways, leaving my ethical will behind almost. I think you get to a point of life, and I have adult children, I have grandchildren, where you think about what you're leaving to them. And by that, I mean the legacy of the kind of person you want to be. You can't tell your children and grandchildren who to be. The best you can do, in my view, is make sure you don't screw them up, and then everything's going to turn out fine. But you can tell them who you chose to be. And I always felt that I inherited a legacy of social justice. So one of the things I've done for years is I've written and delivered sermons at my synagogue. And I did put together, I brought it with me, a book of the first 13 of those that I ever wrote. It's called Creative License, Summer Sermons on Torah and Living in Community. And what they really are, though, they're 13, a baker's dozen. My last name's Baker. I do like puns. So,
and the attention to detail is really, yeah.
It's really 13 essays on social justice more than anything else. That's really what it is.
I'm going to have to read that.
The other book I've written, I was a child when my mother died. I will also say I am an incredibly fortunate person. I had a wonderful mother. I have a wonderful stepmother. I had a wonderful father. I've had wonderful parenting. So I don't say that to say, feel sorry for me. But I was 11 when my mother died. And one of the things that I noticed later is that there was very little for children going through that. The books I found were not realistic. It was, about animals and so forth, because it's as though we're afraid of letting children really work through this in a realistic setting. So I wrote my memoir of that period of time in my child voice for other children going through that. It's called I Remember Mommy's Smile. And so that's this book. And it is really a way for me to allow others who might go through this to have some way of sitting with a caregiver, a surviving parent, or other important adult in their life, and read together and open up dialogue. And so I'm always sad when I get an order for the book because I know what it means, but I'm glad it's there for them.
Yeah, especially because, as you said, it came from, you didn't have that at that point, something that you could. That's really incredible. I'm very sorry about your mother, but
Thank you.
I'm glad something wonderful came out of it, part of your legacy to leave. I think it would also, I am about to tear up. I think I would also be very sad if somebody ordered it, but the fact that it is there and the evolution of the conversations we're willing to have with our little small children that are going to grow up to be big people, I think it's very important.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I will make sure that there is a link shared for that in case anyone goes through that.
Wonderful.
Experience.
I appreciate that.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for sharing both of those things. I really do appreciate it. You're such an interesting individual.
Thank you.
Yes, you're well-rounded. You love what you do, which I think is important. You have very, very cool extracurricular activities and fun milestones that you can discuss. In all these years, and as your career continues, has success and what it means changed for you?
It has in some ways and not in other ways. So success, I think, early in my career was the opportunity to learn something new, the opportunity to apply those learnings, and then leveraging all that to advance to that next stage in my career. Now I would say it's the opportunity to learn something new. I really can't be in a situation where I'm not learning. The opportunity to apply what I've learned, and then the opportunity to leverage that to help others advance in their career. And I think that's the main difference in success. I've gone from being more focused on how my career will grow to being more focused on how I can help others' careers grow. And it's remarkably satisfying. And it's a recognition that if I care about my field, then I have to care about the next generations of people who will be professionals in that field.
Yeah, and your field just, I mean, as Chief Outsiders has changed pretty rapidly.
It does.
I'm sure some, fads like everything come in and out, but marketing, messaging, strategy, all those things, what was happening even 10 years ago versus now, the attention span of people,
Mm-hmm.
remarkably different. What do you think one of the biggest challenges people come to you with for your services? I'm sure there's a gamut, but is there like one thread that shows up frequently?
I would say it sits actually in two categories in terms of what people come to us for. One is it's a growth question. And it's usually I'm not growing the way I used to and I don't know why. I'm not growing as fast as my investors expect me to and I don't know how. Or I'm not growing the way I need to become investable and I don't know how. So you can see how those all sort of relate to each other. The other is usually a leadership gap. They're less focused on the growth and more focused on, I have a leadership gap in marketing or sales. I can tell that the leader I have is not quite there, or I, as that founder, am still leading marketing and sales, and that's not really what I know how to do or the best use of my time. So those are the kinds of things that could be standard year over year over year. That doesn't reflect change. What does reflect change is speed. So everything moves faster now. The need to move to market, to go to market with speed is greater. So it is more dangerous, essentially, to wait and sort of ask yourself, is this something that's just going to work itself out? And so either people are coming to us sooner because they realize that, or they're coming to us at a point where they're really behind and we have to move at a go-to-market speed that's much, much greater. And that's where the changes in Chief Outsiders are so relevant. We've changed ourselves to help with that go-to-market speed. Obviously, the other huge thing that has changed is technology, and that's another thing that is essential to this need for speed because everyone else can move more quickly too. Technology allows them to. So how do I stay in some way ahead? What is going to differentiate me if everyone else is moving to market so fast? How am I going to have my winning edge?
Well, and Chief Outsiders is already, they're a little bit ahead of the game there. You guys are already utilizing AI to support your clients and yourselves internally.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I think that's great because there's, a lot of questions about, is it going to stay? Is it going to go? And I think in reality, people know because it makes the personal side of business easier and gives more time to that I don't think AI and the development of technology is going to go anywhere. But to be a group that is willing to take that risk because it's an unknown place, I think that says a lot about the professionals that you work with and that are brought into the team. And I think that's really enlightening, and some people should take note and pay attention to what is happening over there. Do you think this will be the place that you retire?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. I am I will say the longest I ever stayed at an inside job as opposed to a fractional role was 7 years. I cannot stay somewhere when I feel like I've done all I can do and now I'm just keeping it maintained for a while. I need to be in a place of change. It's who I am. At Chief Outsiders, I'm always called in because somebody needs change. I'm always in that place of change. So I cannot imagine why I'd go anywhere else.
That's a good problem to have, I feel like. To know that you like where you are and that it will sustain and that you can be a part of that. Yeah, I really love that. So interesting too with technology. In your time in working in marketing and leadership, has it impacted your career personally?
Oh, yeah. Well, first of all, and this is going to make me sound very, very old, but I did start my career in a very conservative business in insurance. But at my first job, I wrote things long-handed and handed them to a secretary to type. So it would be impossible for technology not to have affected the way I work since then, right? Aside from those obvious pieces, I think there's a couple of things that really are important to me about what technology's done. I think it's created, where we take advantage of it, greater opportunity for integration between the disciplines. Sales and marketing, obviously. And we've seen that funnel change, and we've seen it become where, that the marketing is going lower into the funnel than it used to, and really nurturing. And then there is, when you work well together, this nice, smooth, collaborative transition to sales versus what used to be really lobbing something over a wall, right? But it's not just marketing and sales. What I particularly get excited about is marketing and finance. With technology, with marketing so technology enabled and integrated, we have such an understanding of the return on investment that we haven't had in the past. And that means you can partner with finance and talk about where marketing is an investment versus looking at it entirely as a cost center, and talk about how you want to invest in a potential return while also understanding the financial constraints, and just be those kinds of collaborative partners in the C-suite and down through the organization. Technology is what enables that in a way that has been very difficult in the past for these kinds of disciplines. The other piece, I also work a lot on internal and HR communications. And that's where I've found myself, much to my surprise, if I look back at my earlier self, as a technology leader in an organization, because I've brought in and spearheaded the development of communication platforms, collaboration platforms, bringing organizations into Office 365, bringing organizations into CRMs and so forth, because it is so critical to how the organization runs as a whole. And that is part of how I provide partnership to HR and to that internal collaborative function overall.
That sounds like a lot of work.
It's good work.
Good. I'm sure it impacts a business. I'm learning as an individual who has tried to build a very solid personal brand that is tied to what I do without being the only thing I'm known for. That marketing is so impactful to the bottom line and the success of some deals.
Mm-hmm.
And like you have just mentioned about technology making it so there's analytics behind that, more data, and You don't have to go to a meeting with a board or an executive and say, here, well, what's that going to cost us? Because I know even in movies, I feel like that was a big, all the fun ones about magazines, it was, well, what's it going to cost us? But now you can directly correlate, well, because we have this brand awareness, this outreach happened for us. And is that an exciting shift since you've seen it in,
I think it's an exciting shift. I will say that not everyone who grew up in the old marketing world has felt that way. I have seen those who sort of resent it. In other words, I never had to prove myself that way before. Why do I have to prove myself that way now? But I think that if you're confident in what you do, having the numbers to show the value you bring is wonderful. But more important, having the numbers to show you where you can improve is wonderful. I never assume I'm doing things as well as I can do them. I always assume there's an opportunity to learn. And data, metrics give me that opportunity to learn and do better.
I'm going to make an assumption, and please correct me if I'm wrong. I'm assuming that data is also very important to chief outsiders and the people you work with.
Oh, yes.
Yes. I'm sure you have challenges with some people you meet with about presenting that, but thank you for giving both sides of it, like where it has been, what it's changing to, and how there are still those struggles from people who have lived it differently than what it is today. How do you feel about the attention span of audiences now?
So that is interesting. I think it really depends what channel you're in.
Okay.
There's an assumption that everyone's attention spans have just narrowed. The truth is that in some modes, in some channels, people want long form. In some channels, they want short form. I think we have to remember what channel we're in and how to feed it and who goes to those channels and what they want. So, yes, there are some shorter attention spans, and there are opportunities to bring people longer stories. Ultimately, people love storytelling. We're hardwired for that. We understand complexity through story, believe it or not, much better than we do through data. Now, that doesn't account for differences among people. And the best thing you can do is bring things forth in all of those different modes: storytelling, data, expository narrative, all of that. But in general, humans not given a story about something they have trouble understanding or need to understand will make up their own story and then believe it. So the key is not, to me, so much about attention span. It's about how can you tell a story within the time you have for the attention span that's going to be given to that channel. The same people who are only going to give the attention span, of an ant or whatever to something on TikTok are also sometimes going to listen to a 1-hour podcast while driving in the car. It's a question of how you tell the story the right way for that audience in that channel, but never stop telling stories.
I'm just thinking about the way that I take in, and I do love short form video, but I do a YouTube for me is the one where I'll watch the hour and a half. So it's very insightful. I guess I didn't think about it, especially through the specific channels and who your audience is. But you are right. The reason I like one versus the other, given each of those channels, is because of the storytelling that is happening.
Yeah.
So I watched a documentary yesterday that was an hour and a half on YouTube. So that just proves it. I'm having a really great time. I just want to interject that.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming on. I really appreciate you traveling down. I know you're here for other reasons, but making the time for this. I only have a couple more questions for you. And one of them is, if you could go back and whisper some advice to yourself when you started your career, now that you've learned more, you've worked with more people, you have access to this incredible group, what would you say?
Say no. It took me a long time to learn that it's okay to say no. In my business and personal life, and really one affects the other, because the same 24 hours of every day gets divided among my business and personal life. I think that there was a time when the fact that I was asked to do something felt like such a rush, because it was affirming, that I had to say yes. And that's not a healthy thing. Having the confidence to say no at the right time for the right reason is a really important skill to learn.
I like the way you said it, having the confidence to say it. Because I guess in reality, at any time you could say no, but there's the pressure when you're starting out and you're working under someone and you don't know everything, that you don't want to disappoint anybody.
And in fact, let me pick up on what you just said. Part of saying no is saying no because I'm not sure I'm ready for that, and admitting to that. No, and here's what I think I can do. Can you help me with the rest? No is not an absolute. It can be a door to something else. But you have to understand what your limitations are, whether it's because of time or experience,
work
or interest.
Yeah, anything.
And then think about what the other options are to a positive outcome.
I just had like an epiphany. It almost seems like being able to say no with confidence can actually create better outcomes, because collaboration can happen. Better ideas can stem from that. And there's learning, which
Yes,
is one of your favorite things. So, yeah. Maybe you should write a book about that. I like that whole little. Maybe
no.
Do we have another one on the way?
Now I have to write another book.
Oh no, your least favorite activity. No, I'm just kidding. No, the way you said it, that it came full circle. That yes, I have said no, but a lot of times we just no, and this is why.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't have to do that. No, I can't do this, but we could try. And I think still to a lot of people, it happens to me sometimes. It's scary to tell someone who's above you or you might think is doing better than you, because we all have that like imposter syndrome from time to time. It just comes up. So very powerful. A no with confidence. I might have to write a post on LinkedIn about how insightful this felt to me just now. Thinking about where you are right now, this season of your life, the chapter that you're in, professionally, personally, what words would you use to describe it? Maybe like 2 or 3, where you are right now.
Generational, adventure, and appreciation.
Why'd you choose those 3?
So generational, I think we talked a little about that. I think a lot about the generations before me and what I've had the benefit of gaining from them, and the generations after me and what I hope they'll have the benefit of gaining from me, both in my personal and professional life. And I have had some amazing professional mentors and leaders. Adventure, part of it is, having the time to go on adventures, to go visit another part of the world, or the financial ability to do so, that I'm so fortunate to have. But part of it is being able to see adventure in more things. than I might have when I was younger. So taking a walk in the woods behind my house, I can define for myself as I'm going on an adventure. And I'm looking closely at what's around me. Anything can be an adventure right now. And that's fun. Appreciation, I feel incredibly fortunate. Not every moment in my life has been easy, but there isn't anything I'd change about where it's all taken me. I just feel incredibly fortunate, and it would be sad not to appreciate that.
And I know you also like adventures of housefuls of family.
I do like adventures of households of family. I really love cooking huge meals for huge households of family and friends, mostly so I can sit back and watch them all interact over it. It's just a blast.
Yeah, and food is an adventure. I love the way food brings people together, and I mean, some of our most significant moments in life. Do you remember what we had when we were for that anniversary or
Yeah.
that graduation? So
Yeah.
that's awesome. I need to do that the next time I'm at a large family gathering. I do a lot of cooking myself. I need to maybe take a step back and
Yes.
watch everyone, the interactions.
It looks like an amazing choreography.
Oh,
to me.
That's a beautiful description.
Yeah.
I love that. I'm going to have to report back to you on how my next big gathering goes. A family coming in from out of town for Christmas.
Please do.
So I definitely will. I have one final question for you before I ask you if you have anything else you'd like to share. In where you are today, do you have someone that significantly impacted your time to get here?
I don't think there's any one person, but there are people. I'll start with my father. My father and I used to read the Oxford English Dictionary together. I mean, if anyone taught me to love words and inquiry and exploration of that kind, it was my father. He gave me lessons in public speaking when I was 12. So let's start there. In my career, it's always been someone who has believed in me by knowing I could get further than I realized I could and giving me the tools to do so. And I'll name just a couple of people. Jackie Reinberg. I worked with her. She said to me, and she was not a marketer, but she and I worked on a team together, and she said, "You're a great marketer and you don't market yourself." And she's the one who took me under her wing and taught me how to advocate for myself within an organization. That's a critical thing to learn. Jim Ely, who was a manager of mine, where I will say, I think a great writer, but he taught me how to be a strategist. And without that, I don't know how much further I could have gone. There's others, but it's really about that person who looks at you and says, "You're doing great and you could do better, and I want to give you the tools."
And you're doing that now for others.
I hope so.
I mean,
that's what I want to be doing.
That's incredible. Thank you for sharing that. I've had an amazing time chatting with you and learning more about you. And thank you so much for sharing about Chief Outsiders. And I'm excited to see the evolution that you guys are going through right now and the changes that are coming. Do you have any closing thoughts you'd like to share with us before we say goodbye to everyone who's listening?
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for having me. It has been a pleasure, a lot of fun to talk to you. I would say that what I wish for everyone is to find what you love and then assume there's even more and go looking for it. That's where you get that learning, that adventure in your everyday life. And there's really nothing better.
We'll just take a moment of pause and make sure everyone takes that in and does exactly that. Again, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. Hopefully, with all the things that are happening with your personal life and with Chief Outsiders, I can maybe have you back one day and we can have an even more interesting discussion about where things have gone.
That would be wonderful.
I'd love it. Well, again, thank you so much. I'm going to send us out now. And that's a wrap on another episode of the Transform Tales. I hope this discussion has inspired you to consider the transformations in your own life. I'm Brooke Addis from Transform Labs, reminding you your next chapter might be your best one yet. Until next time, keep evolving. Keep evolving. See you. Goodbye.